Well, hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Daily Audio Diet. You know, growing up in the 60s, the music was just unbelievable when you really look back at it. There were so many elements that started in the 60s, evolved in the 60s, and made a stamp on music forever from the 60s. And there were bands, of course, that just made their mark during that time, but were very profound. And one of those bands was the Turtles. This is their Happy Together album. This is an OG original release on White Whale Records. And that was a hit song extraordinaire, a #1 Billboard hit song. And the Turtles had a lot of success, actually, in a very short period of time. And in that, they evolved to many, many hits, some of which you will, in fact, remember. It Ain't Me, Babe from 1965 was their first, with You Baby following that in 66, Happy Together in 67, She'd Rather Be With Me from 67 as well, and both of those are on this particular album. Along with that is Eleanor from 1968 and You Showed Me from 1969. And to show what a cultural impact a song like Eleanor had years later, Dana Carvey actually used it in a skit where he was playing John McLaughlin from the McLaughlin Group on PBS, talking to Eleanor Clift on the panel.
Wrong, Eleanor. Gee, I think you're swelling on.
I have no idea.
Wrong. You know quite well. You're just shy.
They also had a song on this album called The Guide for the Married Man. And that particular song was the theme for a movie of the same name from 1967, directed by Gene Kelly. A kind of corny but funny movie. Look it up sometime. But why am I talking about the Turtles? Well, unfortunately, one of the founding band members, Mark Volman, passed away the other day at the age of 78 years old. Now, he and another gentleman named Howard Kaylan were, in fact, the founding members of the Turtles. Now, you'll remember Mark because he, in fact, had the wild frizzy hair. And in 68, a magazine reported that Volman actually had insured his distinctive frizzy hair for $100,000 against fire, theft, or loss due to illness. You see, Mark was a free spirit. And he was one that really was kind of the class clown of the group. You'll see him in various aspects of videos here where he's clowning around with his bandmate Howard in various ways. And it was kind of a yin and a yang they had, with Howard being the serious lead singer and Mark jumping in and doing something odd on camera or in a concert. But this worked very well for them. But when the Turtles became extinct, no pun intended on actual turtles, they found in their contract that they could no longer go and call themselves the Turtles. No! As a matter of fact, for performance reasons, they couldn't even use their real name. Damn it! Now, I don't know who drew up this contract, but it certainly wasn't to their benefit. And so they decided to become Flo and Eddie. No, that's not the Flo from the Progressive commercials. And that's why they use that moniker. And they later actually hooked up in the late 60s, early 70s with Frank Zappa. Well, it seems kind of a natural made in heaven kind of arrangement for Mark, actually, because he was always living on the edge. And he actually appeared in the 1971 Frank Zappa soundtrack to the pseudo-documentary film 200 Motels. And so they did many tours for years under a billing of, later, the Turtles featuring Flo and Eddie. After the contract term had ended, the name could be used again. But over time, of course, health issues got to his bandmate Howard, and he wasn't able to perform any longer. But Mark remained on tour with the Happy Together tour, which brought about various bands from the 60s getting together to entertain whole new generations. So R.I.P. Mark Volman, you always reminded me of somebody who had fun making music. And I think a lot of times, especially in the 60s where things were somewhat tough at times, with the anti-war and all the protest movement songs, it kind of lightened things up. The album behind me in the chair is an album that's a double called Happy Together Again. You might seek it out. It's very inexpensive for a double album, usually between $15 and $25. It's got all of their hits on it on Sire Records, and it's a well-recorded and mastered album as well. So that's the Daily Audio Diet for today. We'll catch you tomorrow.